Pictures. Governors and senators took to the street. Do you remember that? They went to protest the delayed disbursement of funds to the counties. Now, the format of protest may have changed 2 years later, but their complaints are still the same. But why should the delayed disbursements worry you who's watching this program tonight? Well, because devolution was a key tenet of the 2010 Constitution that you voted for overwhelmingly, and yet 8 years later, the constant complaint is that Treasury dutifully delays disbursing a small percentage of the overall budget meant for the counties. So how exactly does delayed disbursement impact on the operations of the devolved units? We now want to get it and hear it live from the horse's mouth tonight, so to speak, as we host Governors Dr. Wycliffe Oparanya and Dr. James Nyoro, and they're live with us right now on the program. And I actually want to start with those pictures, if we can put them up on the screen once again. And I want to start with you, Dr. Oparanya. What has changed since governors took to the streets 2 years ago? Because it looks like nothing much has changed.
You are right. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to Citizen TV for this particular interview. And I can tell you, since that time, nothing has changed. And in fact, at the moment, it's more worse than before.
Give me an idea of the specifics. What do you mean by worse? Delay in terms of months, amount?
Yeah, you know, I happen to have been a governor since the inception of devolution, 2013. And now then, we used to have delays, of course, and the delays could be for 1 month, sometimes maximum 2 months. But at the moment, we go for 3 to 4 months. And I can tell you now, in Kakamega County, since March, April, May, June, and we are already 15th June, when we are supposed to have paid June, nothing has happened.
Let me hear if that is what is...
The situation is so serious that I think we need a national debate on this issue.
Okay. Is a national debate enough is the question. But let me also bring in Dr. Nyoro, who's here with us in studio. Dr. Is that the same experience that you have? And why do you think this is so?
Well, it's true what the former chairman is saying. These delays have actually gotten worse. If you can remember, at the beginning of this financial year, we did not get any disbursement until October of 2020. And remember, that was the year that we were battling with COVID. So the first disbursement was in October. What does that mean? That for 3 months, we had not get, and 3 months means we were supposed to have started the year. You start with service delivery. We were grappling with COVID. Your employees are not paid. Most of them were going on strike. The service providers are not paid. For 3 months, we were not paid. And then after that, it's like you don't even know when the next exchequer is coming. So just imagine that you are running a county and you don't know when the next amount of money will be coming. First of all, you cannot borrow. So it's been so difficult. And the most unfortunate thing is that our people, whether it is employees or even our residents, they do not know that the money is not in the county. So if you go to a hospital and you find that there are no drugs, they blame the governor. You cannot be able to explain that the money is with the Treasury. So the situation really has gotten worse to the extent that, as you probably know, Waihiga, today is 15th of June. Under normal circumstances, if this should be crossed by today, which means you cannot procure. If you can't procure from now, we are in such a situation that we are going to be accused of not having spent our capital budget, our development budget. Because how can you give a supplier an LPO and you have not paid their current bills, and you have not even paid their pending bills? So
Dr. Nyoro, allow me to jump in there and I'll allow you to finish your point. As an economist, what does that then tell you about the state of our economy? What are you reading into that?
Well, I don't think we need to bring in the state of the economy
But
here.
surely you must be curious.
Yes, there are issues.
Are you not curious, Governor?
There are issues. Of course, we have come out of COVID, so the cash flows in terms of KRA, revenue correction, and all of that has been, affected, adversely affected. But we do know, and that is what we've been saying as counties, we are not experiencing the same problem with national government. The ministers are paid. Their people are paid. It's really a question of priority. If you have, even in your own house, Wahiga, if you have a small amount of money, you prioritize and make sure that everybody gets a share. On the other hand, even if there are reduced revenues, it is important for you to give at least an estimate of when that money will come. So we all understand, and we all understand that we have heavy foreign debts that we pay first, second, and third day of the week. And then whatever remains can come and pay counties and other kind of expenses. But it's a question of priorities. It's a question of certainty. That's all we are saying.
And I'll be talking about debt shortly with you. But let me allow Dr. Oparanya to also jump in on this one. Daktari, last week when you had Treasury CS Ukuri Atani stating that about 370 billion Kenya shillings will be going to the counties in the next financial year, did that news excite you?
That is, in fact, misinformation. If he says that he will be releasing money to clear pending bills, does it mean that this is fresh money, or is part of the money that has been allocated us through the Division of Revenue Act? So that creates a confusion. And in fact, as soon as he announced that, there were so many creditors and contractors who came to my office saying that now money has been released from the national government specifically to clear pending bills, and which is not true. And up to now, we have not seen this particular money that he was talking about. And Dr. Oparanya, let me tell you, my friend.
Okay, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, proceed.
The people voted for devolution 2010, and they thought that devolution will improve their lives. This has not happened. Of course, when there has been money coming in, service delivery has improved than before. But now, the way the situation is, I can tell you, Kenyans are thinking that devolution was one way they were being cheated, that money is going to counties when it is not. And all the blame goes to the governors.
Okay. And Dr. And before you
hear
proceed,
the government,
let me jump in. Let me jump in. I'm speaking to you not just as the governor of Kakamega County, but as the former chair, someone who interacted with the executive very closely. In your view, what do you believe is the reason for these delays?
Now, I think one of the reasons, one is that counties are not given priorities.
Okay.
And there are people who do not believe in devolution at all.
Who are these people?
There are people at the national level who do not believe in devolution. And they are frustrated devolution all along. Even if you are in their meetings, you can see when you are meeting with the national people, their body language, it shows that you are part of you are part. You are not a main factor. And unless this attitude is changed, I can't see devolution working.
Gentlemen, you're not just CEOs of your respective counties, you're also politicians, and astute ones at that, for you to have gotten to the levels that you've gotten to. And I'm curious to know why you have not used your political affiliations to push, because this evening you both sound very frustrated. Many Kenyans want to be governors in the coming year, and yet I'm listening to you and I wonder if the grass is any greener on that other side. And I want to start with you actually, Governor Nyoro. And what many might be wondering from you is, have you done enough to fight for that money? I saw you a month ago fighting for accurate tabulation of votes at a tallying center in a by-election, and the passion that you put your heart into that. I haven't seen you doing that for devolution, Governor Nyoro, so far. Have you done enough to get that money from the national government? And you're a member of Jubilee as well.
Well, I have to tell you, Wahiga, that we've been fighting for this. And I want to thank the Chairman Emeritus. Because he actually made a lot of effort, particularly even going to State House and discussing it with His Excellency the President, and pushing and issuing statements. We have really been pushing. If you count the number of meetings, including yesterday, that the Council of Governors go and meet the CS Treasury, all of those robbing and so on. We've been talking, we've been pushing. Unfortunately, I think also you see in this country that priorities have changed, such that the priorities now may be more on political side than on devolution. But I can tell you that we have been pushing this idea, and we've been patient because, you know, over and above the fact that Governor Oparanya has said that there are people who do not believe, and I strongly second him, there are people who do not believe in devolution, and therefore they will frustrate every effort of devolution. But on the other hand, it's good to appreciate that we went through this cash flow problem with COVID and whatever. And what was important is for us to sit in a round table and agree our priorities. That has not happened. So it's the fact that, yes, there is no goodwill, but on the other hand, there is this kind of like, what are they going to do? So we have been fighting as Council of Governors, but probably not the kind of fight that you are talking about on that day. You feel that decision makers in Treasury or up there, you know, none of you want to name any names, feel that governors can do nothing? You are powerless beyond press conferences, Dr. Nyoro? Well, I don't think they feel that we can do nothing. They know that we can do something, but our approach, and Chairman will tell you, and in fact, I think you should ask him that on a number of occasions, in fact, he went out of his way to have a dialogue, because before you fight, I don't know, before you fight, you have to have a dialogue. You have to have an open door policy. It doesn't seem to be working. But Governor, you know, now that's why we are here. That's why we issued the statement yesterday. That's why we said we are closing down the counties. Remember, Chairman Emeritus actually threatened to close down counties, if you can remember that. So the next series of things is to close down, and in any case, you are closing something that has already closed itself, because if hospitals are not operating, they've already closed themselves down. So that's probably the language that Treasury will be able to understand. Dr. Oparanya, Dr. Nyoro has raised a few questions your way, but both of you keep mentioning priorities. National government has shifted priorities. Is BBI now one of those priorities? Is that 35% allocation to counties still a reality in your mind, Governor, when you look at the situation we're in right now?
I wouldn't know. Actually, I'm not part of national government. I wouldn't know their current priorities. But both of you keep referring to some priorities. But you see, in any organizational arrangement, you must have your priorities. So I don't know their priorities at the moment. I know my own priorities. But whether PPI is a priority or not, it's not me to answer. Although I have been supporting BBI because there are good things within that BBI. Yeah, but I feel that if we continue the way we are doing, even the 35% being proposed in the BBI, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult to pay
Governor,
to the counties.
Which is why I then want to hear from you, because you've been a proponent of BBI. Will you then go and tell the people of Kakamega that 35% is a reality, when right now I see your struggle, I hear your struggle with even 15%?
What I will tell them, what I will tell the people of Kakamega, that 35% is a reality, but I feel the people have been given responsibility to manage resources at the national level have failed this country.
Okay, Governor, and I want to keep interrogating you on this one. What happens next? Is there a shutdown next week? And what does that look like, if there is?
Yeah, I think we should not, as counties. Counties all over, they are struggling. One, let me tell you, counties have borrowed money to pay salaries. They are paid salaries for people that are not working. If you go to offices of the counties, people are reading newspapers. And they have been paid because the banks have agreed to advance us money for salaries. And then there's no development. How then would you expect the people to feel? People have been auctioned, my friend. Mm-hmm. People have come to my office. I'm helpless. They have been auctioned.
Governor, I don't know whether you can.
How do I help them?
And again, I'm speaking to you both as a CEO of your county, but also as a leader within the ODM party, a party that is in a very close arrangement, a handshake with the ruling party. Surely there are other channels, Governor, for which you can, vent your frustrations beyond press conferences and TV. What do you hear when you ask those questions in those meetings that you attend?
You know, my friend Maura, these issues we have talked about them. We have talked to them separately. When I was the chairman of Council of Governors, I have engaged the national government. But I think counties, as I have said, they are not given priority at all. You know, the law is very clear. The law says, the Constitution itself, that disbursement to the counties should go timely. And timely is subjective. Now, the Public Finance Management Act came out clearly and said by 15th of every month, you must have paid the disbursement of that particular month. This has not happened. We have gone to the courts, and the courts has ruled in our favor, saying that disbursement should be paid by the law. And there is someone in the national government violating this. And I can tell the CS Treasury that you are violating the laws of this land. You should be taken to committee for violating the laws of this land. So the next course of action is us to go to court and to enforce what the court says, that why can the CS Treasury be arrested and be committed to jail?
Okay, you've made some very strong statements here. I really wish I had a representative from Treasury to respond to some of those. But there's something that your colleague, Dr. Nyoro, mentioned in his opening submissions on debt. And economists who we hosted even last week in this program spoke about the real challenge of Kenya's debt. And one would ask this evening, why aren't governors challenging the national government on the state of our debt? It could be one of the reasons why funds are not available for you in the counties, Dr. Nyoro.
You see, Wahiga, questioning the national government on the level of debt is what, as an economist, I would say is necessary but not sufficient. We are already in that quagmire. And what we have been discussing, and that is why I mentioned that we've had discussions with Treasury, and we've said, as a country, and we have all these infrastructure projects that are good. What we need to do is probably to consider further measures of rescheduling this debt. Because already you are in the debt. Whether we question it now or not, it is there. What we need to do is what other countries do when they are in a kind of a debt portfolio that we are in. Can we discuss with some of the debtors? We know some of them do not even want to hear, but can we discuss about debt rescheduling? That is one. The second thing is we have discussed with Treasury that we come up with a mechanism through the central bank that ensures that counties are assured a certain amount of money, and that can be organized through some financial instruments within the central bank so that you can come up with this, even as you think about debt rescheduling. Now, going forward, we definitely will be more concerned about further debts, but you know that that is not within the responsibility of the governors. It is the members of parliament. It's not governors, but we can make noise. But noise is as it is, it's just noise. So what we are saying, the situation that we are in as a country, we are not the first country to be in such a situation. We need to come up with innovative methods of rescheduling and handling the debt so that we can be able to replenish and do operations and maintenance for our own country. But there are other instruments that we can use, which unfortunately Treasury is not listening to some of the people who are advising.
Gentlemen, I do have some tweets which I'll be taking a look at shortly, but I also want to look at what you do with the money once you get it, and I know some viewers have questions on that. Remember, 22422 is the SMS line, and the hashtag is NEWSNIGHT. But before we wrap this up, Dr. Oparanya, if the growth of devolution depends on the goodwill of the powers that be, Treasury, you name it, what solutions would you propose, if any, to ensure that future county governments don't have to send their representatives to a studio interview for an hour and a half like you have done today? To almost just complain pretty much. What are sort of solutions you would propose in your view?
Yeah, we were on the forefront on the proposals within the BBI, how funds should flow to the county government. And even if you look at the money that is going to the county government, it's not a lot compared to what is at the national level. If you compare the national budget with the county government budget, it's just now 13%. So this is very small, this is very little money. So what I'm proposing that we must, one, a national dialogue, so that we agree that all of us appreciate devolution as voted for by the Wananchi in 2010, and then come up with the mechanism to ensure that counties get money on time. Because what is happening, national government takes their priorities first, and as we are at the tail end, not knowing that we have to provide very critical services like health, and during this COVID period, now we have no money. We are on our own. We have to take care of the COVID patients, and most of these patients cannot even be able to pay for their bills. So we are forced to waive these bills. So unless there is a clear commitment from the president himself, we will have very many press conferences as we are having them, and nothing will happen.
Dr. Nyoro, there are those who say that the reason why some governors cannot, or the county, the council of governors cannot speak almost in one voice is because some governors would be afraid that pushing for devolution, which means maybe taking on the executive or leaders of their political parties, could affect their 2022 possibilities. That politics now could be a factor in how devolution operates moving forward. Do you hold that view?
You mean there are some governors who believe that they would rather die now and reselect in 2022. What we are saying, let's be very practical. What we are saying is that service right now is not being delivered. And I want to give you an example. You know, we are in June. The next 3 months, June, July, and August, are our winter, the coldest months. Now, that is the time when the disease incidence, particularly pulmonary-related flu and whatever, goes up. If you ever remember, when you have 2 or 3 patients in a bed, God forbid, now with COVID, we have increased the bed capacity. That happens within the next 3 months. Now, this is the same 3 months when you close actually Treasury, because if Miss closes and it will open again in September. If within that period you cannot be able to stock enough drugs, enough non-farm to take you through until September, and you expect that you'll be there in 2022, you will actually not be there in September. So if there is a governor who is not speaking so that you can be there in 2022, you actually not speak now, you will not be available to speak in 2022. This is a very, very serious issue that we are facing.
Gentlemen, I shortly want to switch gears, take a look at specific counties, what's happening there. But before that, I know we have some feedback. I know we have a couple of tweets. This is what Kenyans are saying this evening. Remember, the SMS line is 22422. And the hashtag is NEWSNIGHT. Let's take a look at some of them. Barnabas Muel says, delayed disbursement means poor service delivery at the county level. Okay? And I think the governor has emphasized that. Engineer David Ongo says, they always talk about the delays. Let them talk more about delivered services. And we'll be getting to that. Martin Kamau says, my question is this. If less than 20% is delaying, what will happen when 35% will be implemented? It's from Martin Kamau. And Julius Ngatia, you say, we Kenyans tend to place ourselves on as first amongst equals. And yet some things are clear and open. Why can't the government budget on reasonable means rather than a budget meant to depend wholly on loans? And Hilary Chemjor, you're bringing up the 35% issue again. You say it's ironical. Majority of these governors support BBI. If the 15% can't be disbursed on time, what change will it make if we raise 35%? Why not put an amendment that compels national government to do so timely? Okay, David Makali says, given the melodrama and perpetual delays in disbursement of funds to the counties, in view of adverse economic situation in the foreseeable future, I wonder whether proponents of the 35% BBI proposals are taking a reality check. Rising recurrent costs versus stagnated revenue flows. Gentlemen, we're actually due for our first break, but before that, Dr. Oparanya, and this is on a side note, you were part of a group yesterday that met of governors from the Lake region, and this is on an aside, but an important question still at that, to talk about concerns about the rise of COVID in the Lake region. Briefly, where are we with that? Do you still believe a lockdown is imminent?
We had a meeting on Sunday, because it was an emergency meeting to discuss the rising cases of COVID in the Lake Region Economic Bloc. And we agreed that we have got very little support in terms of enforcement of the protocols put in place by the Ministry of Health. The matatus are now moving the way they used to be, crowded. People are gathering in funerals. And it is not our responsibility to provide security, but we supplement. So our resolutions, part of our resolution was that we must come up with some restrictive lockdown, especially for Kisumu, Siaya, and Homa Bay, where the cases are rising, and requested the national government to enforce the COVID-19 protocols. And we mandated our chair of health at as the COG, Professor Nyang' Nyong, to present our case at the national level, and a meeting was held yesterday. Unfortunately, I have not got the outcome of that particular meeting.
Okay, thanks, Governor, for that update. And a viewer is saying, coincidentally, some of the individuals that the governors on your show are blaming, either Treasury or national government, were previously governors. Let's think a little bit about that. Now, COVID-19 will be part of the discussion we'll be having on the other side of this break, and county preparedness. We take a look at that and so much more when we come back. 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Newsnight. What is happening in the counties? Clearly a lot, and the governors are not a happy lot. We dig deeper into that on the other side of this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.